today's podcast, we're going to be looking at the book Fight Club, written by Chuck Palahniuk, and we're going to be taking a look at the literacy devices that Chuck used in his book Fight Club. Alright, let's get into it. The first quote that I want to look at from the book is, quote, "You buy furniture. You tell yourself this is the last sofa I will ever need in my life. Buy the sofa, then for a couple of years you're satisfied with no matter what goes wrong, at least you've got your sofa issue handled. Then the right set of dishes, then the perfect bed, the drapes, the rug, then you're trapped in your lovely nest, and the things you used to own, now they own you." End quote. This is from page 44, and this dialogue from the story shows the literacy device allegory. The dialogue shows allegory because it talks about the greater meaning using objects. This example, it talks about how you spend all your time working to buy the perfect furniture. Then once you have everything you want, it makes it a lot harder to continue on working. Then you just start going through the motions in life. This is how this quote from the book shows the literacy device allegory. The next quote I want to look at is, quote, "Last week I tapped a guy and he and I got on the list for a fight. This guy must have had a bad week. Got both my arms behind my head in a full Nelson and rammed my face into the concrete floor until my teeth bit open the inside of my cheek. My eye was swollen shut and I was bleeding, and after I said stop, I could look down and there was a print of half my face in blood on the floor." End quote. This is from page 51. This part of the story shows the literacy device imagery. In this part of the story, you can make a clear picture of how the main character is getting beaten up in the fight he had last week in Fight Club. You can easily picture him in a full Nelson and getting smashed into the ground, as well as the hole in his cheek that was made from his tooth. That's disgusting. Finally, picturing his swollen eye and the print of half of his face in the ground is pretty easy to picture. The author did a good job having the reader paint a picture in their minds about the part of the story. The next part of the story that I want to talk about is, quote, "Everyone smiles with that invisible gun to their head." End quote. Page 19. This part of the story shows the literacy device metaphor. This is a metaphor because when the main character goes to his first support group, he tells us that there are introductions and then he says the quote that I already mentioned. This means that everyone that is smiling has that kind of nervous smile like they have a gun to their head. They really don't, but they either have cancer, brain parasites, etc. They know that they're close to death and are afraid of dying. This is why they are smiling nervously and why this is a metaphor. For our fourth literacy device, we'll be looking at the quote. Quote, "Everything is so far away. A copy of a copy of a copy." End quote. Page 21. This part of the story shows the literacy device repetition. This shows repetition by the text saying, quote, "A copy of a copy of a copy." End quote. When the main character says this, he is talking about how his insomnia makes everything seem the same. Henceforth, him saying, quote, "A copy of a copy of a copy." For our second last quote, quote, "And Tyler was never at home, but after a month, a few of the space monkeys had Tyler's kiss burned into the back of their hand." End quote. Page 133. This part of the story shows the literacy device symbolism. The text shows symbolism because anybody that is associated with Project Mayhem has Tyler's kiss burned into the back of their hand. The main character has it, Marla Singer has it, the Space Monkeys have it, anybody who is associated with Tyler or Project Mayhem. This is why Tyler's kiss is a symbol in the book. The final quote of the book that we are going to look at is, quote, "At $20 a bar, these are the only folks who can afford it. The richest, creamiest fat in the world, the fat of the land," he says. "That makes tonight a kind of Robin Hood thing." End quote. Page 150. This part of the story shows the literacy device illusion. This part shows allusion in when it says, quote, "That makes tonight a kind of Robin Hood thing," end quote. This makes what the people of Project Mayhem are doing look good. It makes them seem like they are taking from the rich and giving it to the poor, which is what Robin Hood did. However, they are not really doing anything good by stealing fat to make the soap to sell back to the rich. To recap what we learned in this podcast, we talked about the literacy device allegory, imagery, metaphor, repetition, symbolism, and illusion. These are all literacy devices that are in the book Fight Club. I hope you guys learned a lot from this podcast about literacy devices, as well as examples of literacy devices from the book Fight Club. And we'll see you in the next one. See ya.